All right. I hope you're having a great day, guys. It's wonderful to be here with you. And look who's back.
Hey, everybody. I'm excited to be back.
She's been missing in action for the last couple of weeks. She's been with her job, right? Back at work.
Yeah, they called me back in for a couple days a week. I was a little disappointed, and I'm still adjusting. It's been hard when you've been remote for a whole, 2.5 years?
2.5 years, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm still adjusting, guys.
Yeah, and we are glad to have her back, especially me. I don't enjoy doing this podcast by myself. And I just want to say, that it is great to see you guys. It's great to be here with you guys. And, I always feel like I could see you because I feel like I see the people who look at the podcast and who are viewing it. And, it always makes me feel real special in my heart to be connected,
Yes.
for both of us, right? We
Yeah,
love
definitely.
connecting with people. We were just talking about right now that nobody makes us do this.
Mm-hmm.
This is not like something that we have to do. This is not something that we're getting paid to do.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that we do from the bottom of our heart because we really want to see.
Yes.
We want to fulfill what we started out to do with this podcast,
Yes,
right?
and that's to encourage,
Yep.
to help, to build you guys up.
Yep.
And sometimes we're going through things, and we know if we're going through it, then you guys probably are too, and we want to encourage you guys as well.
Yes, and this next topic is fresh. I heard Franklin Jensen say this the other day, and I loved it. He said, "You know what? In this time of my life," he says, "I'm not necessarily coming to you with messages that I've just been studying on, that I have been reading books about."
Yeah.
He says, "I find myself in this time of my life really coming to you from places of experience,
Yeah.
of things that I'm going through right now."
Yeah.
And this topic that we're going to be talking about over the next several weeks or however many weeks
Yeah.
the Lord allows us to go through it, it's going to be rest in peace, killing the worry in our lives. And
Yeah.
we stepped out recently to pledge in our
Yes.
church. And it seems like when we stepped out to pledge,
Yeah.
all hell broke loose
Yes.
in the area of our finances, right?
Exactly.
And the enemy is, we begin to just look and say like, wow, the enemy's hitting. And man, this Sunday, God really gave me a wake-up call.
Yeah.
I felt that I felt like I got rebuked. I don't know if you've ever felt that, but have you ever been rebuked by the Lord, in a service?
Yeah.
Well, this
I felt
Sunday.
the same way though too. I'll share mine after you share yours.
No, good. Tell me yours.
Okay, so Pastor Joe this Sunday was talking about faith, which I was so grateful for because me and my husband have been going through a series of I don't want to say trials, but lessons maybe.
No, I think a process.
A process.
A growth process.
And we know it had been with our faith. And, this was something that my husband had said, I think this is going to be the topic that we're going to talk about for the next couple of weeks through our podcast. And I said, you know what, you're right. This feels like a God thing.
Yeah.
And then we go to church on Sunday and Pastor Joe's talking about faith. So first of all, it's great to know that we're in sync with our pastor. And that feels like, okay, Lord, you're really showing us and speaking to us.
And it's the second time
Yeah.
that God has used Pastor Joe to confirm the things that he is showing us.
Yeah.
And I feel that, number one, I feel that it shows that that Whittier has really become our home.
Yes.
I think it also shows that Pastor Joe and Sister Doreen are really our pastors.
Yep.
I really think that God is not only that, but I think that they are in step and in sync
Yes.
with not only Victory Outreach, but also with the body of Christ
Yes.
and the things that we're doing and the things that we're stepping out and doing as a church. God is
Yes.
really making sure that we're connected to
And
it
there's
all.
a sensitivity.
Yes.
There's a sensitivity that they know what their flock,
Yep.
what we're going through as well.
Yep.
And what we need building up in. But when Pastor Joe was talking this weekend on faith last Sunday, he talked about the maturity and how we respond when we're going through that rough season.
Right.
And man, I felt such a conviction in myself because I know in the season that what we've been going through, I've had many times, and I'm sure you guys have been there, where you kind of just throw your hands up in the air and you just get angry.
Yeah.
Like your response is anger.
Yeah.
And I wasn't angry at God, but I felt angry
Right.
at where we were at.
Right.
And my response wasn't mature. And I felt a conviction in my heart that, man, Lord, I need to adjust my response to situations we face.
Yeah.
And there has to be a maturity in my response to what we go through.
Right. And then you saw how many people in our church were going through the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Even comically, Pastor Joe sat down when he said, how many of you are going through this? He sat on the stage and he raised both of his hands and both of his feet.
Yeah.
And just as a symbol of like, hey, I'm going through this with
Yeah.
you. And so what it has shown us is that, you know, right now, our church, our life, the people in our church, we're in a process of faith development
Yes.
for this next level. You know, you don't the enemy's not going to just sit back and let a church, you know, that right now, you know, is one size, step into a building that seats 2,000 people and just be all right with it.
Without
you know?
a growth process.
But let me get back to what the Lord
good.
was speaking to me and how he corrected me. You know, one of the things that, you know, we do sometimes is that when we step out and there's opposition, immediately we blame the devil. We begin to, sometimes, not all of you, but I was. I was like, man, babe, the
So was
enemy's
I,
hitting me,
yeah.
and the devil's hitting us, and the devil's hitting us, and the devil's doing this, and the devil, and
He's mad at us,
Yeah, and the Lord told me on Sunday, he says, you need to stop all this devil talk because this is not the devil. He says, this is me orchestrating what you are going through.
Yeah.
The same way I was the one who orchestrated the storm for my disciples. I am orchestrating this.
Yeah.
So it's an insult for you to call what I'm orchestrating
Yeah.
as the work of the enemy. He says, I'm using things that I created in your life to develop your faith. And then this was the heavy thing is that he said, and you think that I'm doing all of this so that you could learn to trust me? He says, no, you got it all wrong. I'm orchestrating all this so that I can learn to trust you with the harvest that I intend to bless you with.
Yeah, that's
and
powerful.
God began to speak to me, man, so powerfully. And when he said that, he spoke it to me and it was like, wow, like a ton of bricks. He said, you know what he told me? He says, my track record's impeccable. Yours is not. How dare you think and insult me that I'm doing all this so that you could learn to trust me as though I need to prove something to you.
Yeah.
He says, I'm allowing all this because I want to see if I can trust you.
Yeah.
You know, and then, man, God spoke to me two specific things. He told me this. He says, number one, I want to see, in this season, I want to see if you know the difference between the seed and the harvest. He says, because I have given you seed and you have mistaken the seed for the harvest. You think that what I'm providing for you is actually what I'm giving you so that you could do what you have to do. He says, when I'm giving it to you so that you could plant it.
Yes.
He says, I want to see in this time that not only will you know the difference between the seed and the harvest, but I want to make sure that you will give to me whatever I give you, whatever blessing I orchestrate for you. I want you to give to me what belongs to me without any hesitation or without any reservation. And here's the bonus. He said, I want you to learn that when I give you the harvest I'm giving you isn't for you. The harvest I'm giving to you is for somebody else.
Wow.
Because you will sow, you will reap where you did not sow. He said, you're thinking that what's coming into your hands is for you. He says, what's coming into your hands is for somebody else.
Wow.
What you need is in somebody else's hands. I got somebody else working for what you need. But what I'm giving you is for somebody else. Man, I almost got touched there.
Yeah.
You know, he says, and it was so real. What the Lord spoke to me because he was showing me that, listen, in this time, I'm elevating your faith.
And how many times do we get that seed and we think it's the harvest?
Yes.
And we keep it for ourselves.
That's right.
Oh man, that convicts me.
Yeah,
Wow.
because, you know, there's times, listen, folks, there are things that you are praying for, miracles that you are praying for. There are promises that you're waiting to be fulfilled. There's financial needs right now. Many people are stepping out by faith in this new year, and we're stepping into buildings, or your church is in a building project, or maybe you want to own a home, or there's things that God has spoken to you. You're going to buy your home, and all these things. And what happens is this: we together, and I say we because the Lord has really spoken to me so clearly, is that He is showing me the difference between the seed and the harvest, and that we can no longer afford to mistake the seed for the harvest. And when we do get the harvest, we need to understand that there is a priority. And we must give to the Lord what belongs to Him without reservation or hesitation. And we must take that harvest, whatever the amount is, whatever that portion is, and we must give it to the person who has been praying for it. And where I was thinking about this is last week when we were talking about Pastor Vince's miracle. Here's a great example of it. Just a little recap from last week, Pastor Vince was talking about the miracle that him and Sister Ginger received when they got their building. They got a $60,000 check from another church, and they needed that $60,000, and it wasn't a loan, it was a gift. It was something that they did not have to pay back. But here was the interesting part, was that Pastor Vince told us that when they took possession of that new building, at that time, the other church who gave them the check started raising the money. And they didn't know who they were raising it for. And Pastor Vince didn't know at that time that he would need that amount of $60,000 in 5 years. But when they gave him that check, it was the work of other people's hands that met the need and the blessing that they needed. It came from somebody else. And man, when I heard that, and after what God spoke to me on Sunday, I felt so confirmed in my heart to understand that, Lord, forgive me for not recognizing the difference between the seed and the harvest, but also forgive me for many times spending that seed that somebody else was waiting for.
Or that needed. Oh,
yes,
gosh.
That they needed, exactly. So, today, listen, man, we're going to be getting into these type of topics, but I mean, really what we're going to be attacking the next several weeks. But we are also starting this brand new topic of rest and peace, killing the worry in our life. And that's what we're going to really target. We have some wonderful, wonderful principles and truths that we have been learning in this season.
What to do. I'm going to be coming to you guys with what to do when you're waiting on God. Some steps on what to do with scriptures on when you're waiting. What do I do when I'm waiting? And sometimes we don't know. We kind of just think that, oh, God, you must not be doing anything. But He is doing something. He's always up to something behind the scenes. And we like to say that, well, I don't feel it, I don't see it. But man, God is, just like I think of Pastor Vince and Sister Ginger again, that in that 5-year process, God was up to something. And they didn't even know it. But you know what I think, too, is that along that way, they could have gave up because they went through some heavy stuff. But see, they kept pushing through. They kept going for it. They didn't give up through everything they went through. And I think that's why it didn't. What would you say? It didn't cancel. It didn't come back void. Because they passed every test the Lord put before them.
But here's when you're talking about tests, Pastor Joe said something this Sunday that was really, really powerful, and it was very simple but very powerful, which was, what we're going through now is not the test. What we're going through right now is the preparation for the test. And this is what the Lord spoke to me. He said, what I have you guys going through right now is not the test. The test is going to be when I give you the blessing that you have been praying for, and for you to do what I want you to do with that blessing. That will be the test. And man, that was real encouraging, because sometimes we think that what we're going through is the test. No, but it's the preparation. He said something along the lines of that when you were in school, they didn't just give you the test.
No, they prepared
you. The teacher prepared you, and then they gave you the test. Well, that's what God is doing in our lives. That's what God is doing, I believe, in your life as well, is He is preparing you for the test. But here's the good news. The test is going to come in the form of a great blessing and miracle. And at that point, when the blessing comes, will you know the difference between the seed and the harvest? And will we know the difference of knowing that when the blessing comes, are we going to give to God what he desires and what belongs to him without hesitation or reservation? And will we take whatever he wants us to invest and invest it in the person who has been believing for their harvest? They've been waiting for it. And the Lord is going to use your work to bless another man's sowing, praying, believing, trusting God. Now, for some of you, you may not like that idea because you may be stuck in a rhythm of life where, no, you believe that, well, no, you got to work for what you get. You got to work hard. And if you work hard, you're going to get this. Well, I want you to know something, that concept is a secular concept. It's a concept that comes from society. Society is the one who is teaching us that, well, if you want this, then you got to work hard for this. And what we're going to be teaching you over the next couple of weeks is this: when you work, God rests. And when we rest, God works.
Yes.
And what we are going to do is we're going to explain that. We want to break down what that actually means. When we rest, God works.
Because
and
it's
when,
our own work.
Yes, exactly.
And God's saying, take your hands off the problem. Take your hands out of the situation and let me work.
And this whole principle is based off of when God created the universe and all that exists. On the seventh day, he rested. When Jesus did the work of the cross, he ascended to heaven and he into rest. And the greatest gift that God has designated for you and I is rest.
Yes.
The greatest thing after all that we do in this world, when he finally takes us home, we will enter his rest. We will be in a place where now we don't have to toil and work and we're going to get into all these things. We want to understand what type of work we need to do.
Yes.
We want to understand what it means to rest. What it means to rest is that when God created the universe on the seventh day, he rested. When Jesus did the work on the cross, then he rested. The rest that the Bible is talking about for you and I to engage in is that we need to rest from trying to make everything happen in our life. In other words, once and for all, we need to come to a place that says, I will not worry.
Yes.
I will not, and boy, man, we're going to break down worry and all the way it's going to come at you.
Yeah, because if you're walking around like filled with anxiety, stress,
restlessness, fear, doubt,
you're not at rest.
Yes.
You're not surrendered. You haven't let go of that situation and let God take over.
Right.
I mean, we've been there. We were there a couple weeks ago.
You guys don't even understand what we've been through in these last couple of weeks. I mean, of the level of worry and stress and doubt and fear and restlessness and discouragement and defeat and all of these feelings that we had to really go through to understand what we're about to give to you.
Yeah, and know that God is in control and really let go, because the enemy likes to come in and say, "What are you going to do about it, Mondo?"
Yep. Mondo mode.
We call it Mondo mode when we try to figure out like it on within ourselves.
Yep.
We call it Mondo mode, and the enemy likes to come in and ask you.
Hey,
whisper.
I call it Mondo mode. She does. She got to call it Christina mode. Well, that she can't be like, man. It's not. You better not call it Mondo mode either. You call it whatever your name is. It's for me. It's Mondo mode because it's the place that I have gotten into when, in my great thinking, I all of a sudden realize I'm in a circumstance that God needs my help.
Yep.
He needs to step aside because, Lord, hey, you did pretty good, but let me get in there and let me help you, because obviously you don't understand the timeline that I'm dealing with. You don't understand the urgency of what I need and all these things. We're going to be breaking all that down, and we're going to let all of you understand and better understand with us what we're learning about that, so that you could break whatever mode it is that you get into, and we can understand better how God works in those times,
No, but I was saying that, the enemy likes to whisper. Yes. Like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Yes.
And what he does in that time is he takes our eyes off of God, because
Yeah.
we start trying to figure it out.
Yep.
When at the end of the day, the Lord wants our eyes fixed on him.
Yep.
Our eyes have to be fixed on him. And we're going to talk about all of this
Yes.
stuff. We have such good stuff for you guys.
Man.
I'm so excited about it. I really am.
Today, we're just giving you a little tidbit, and we wanted to really connect with you. Listen, we're also real sorry that, the podcast hasn't been available, when it normally is on Wednesday morning. But listen, we have been dealing with so many different things in our schedule,
Yeah.
with my wife going back to work, and then also our business is really, this is a real busy time for our business. But no matter what, we want you to know that we are doing everything to stick to our commitment and the consistency of giving to you guys whatever it is that God gives us. There's such an urgency in our heart for this
Yeah.
this topic.
Yes.
There's such an urgency, and I love when we have topics that come to us with such urgency, and then they're so meaningful because
Yeah.
we're going through it with you and we're conquering it with you.
And every topic that we have brought you guys has been from our experience.
Yeah.
Everything that we've brought you has been from what we've been through, what we're in, what we've came out of.
Yep.
So it's all from our heart.
Yes.
Because we're learning with you guys. We're still learning with you guys.
There's nothing better than going to the bakery and getting fresh bread or fresh pan dulce or fresh going to the
Donuts.
store and getting fresh donuts and everything like that. You don't want the things that have been sitting there for a while stale. Well, this is fresh out of the oven. This is fresh from our life to you. And we're going to be giving you scriptures that support all this. We're going to give you, our own thoughts and our own experiences. But most importantly, we want to encourage you. Listen, hold on and don't give
Yes.
up.
You're not
Okay?
alone.
You're not alone.
No.
If you've been stepping out and you stepped out in the miracle territory and all hell has been breaking loose, this is going to be a time that you don't want to miss
Yes.
these next episodes, because we are going to speak life right into your life from where we're at to where you're at. And this is what's going to happen. God is going to bring a paradigm shift. He's going to bring a shift in your mentality. You are going to see, this is something that the Lord recently showed me and spoke to me. He said, when, I got a brand new camera, and this camera's a really great camera. And when you to focus, you got to turn the lens. And the Lord began to speak to me, and he said, the pressure that it takes to turn the lens of your life is determined by the changes that you're allowing me to make in you. And the more you allow me to change you, and the more you allow me to grow you, the greater the pressure is to turn. And what's going to happen is the more you change, one day it's just going to click. The lens is going to click into focus, and you're going to begin to see everything that it is that I've been wanting
good.
to show you. So whatever you're going through, keep surrendering, keep changing. Our theme here is in Scar Stories and Songs is let's grow together.
Yes.
And so whatever it is you're going through, let yourself be in a posture in a state of surrender to the Lord, so that lens could keep turning, and it's going to click.
Yeah.
And you're going to see everything so clearly.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
Babe, why don't you just share with them whatever you want to close us out here.
I just want to encourage you guys. Like my husband said, you're not alone. We're going through things. We're in things. We're coming out of things. But we want to give it to you guys, and we want you guys to get ready and be encouraged that you're not alone, and that this is an exciting topic. Yeah. And I know sometimes when you're going through it, it doesn't feel good, and I know that feeling. I mean, I've just 2 weeks ago I was on my knees, broken, crying, angry, and frustrated. But man, when I think about it, it's all for a purpose.
Yes.
All of it is for a purpose, and it doesn't feel good. But if you keep surrendering, you keep allowing the Lord to show you. Ask Him. I had to tell Him, Lord, clean the lens of my eyes. Help me to see what You are doing.
Yes.
And even if I don't understand it, give me the faith to trust You.
Yes.
And sometimes it's a little hard to say those words, like, Lord, give me patience, give me faith, because I feel like, man, what are You going to put me through if I ask for those things?
Believe me.
But we need Him, because we need to keep growing in our faith. We need to keep growing in our trust in Him, and Him trusting us. Like, I know for some people, I feel like it's not about God trusting them. Mm-hmm. It's about them trusting the Lord, right?
Right.
And I feel like for us, it was for God to trust us.
Yeah.
With what He's putting in our hands.
And I think that what we all have to understand about that is that, yes, there is a process of everything that we're going through to learn to trust in God, but that's not the end result.
Yes.
See, that's the thing. We get stuck on the beginning. The beginning is, yes, we're learning to trust in God, but the end is God trusting us.
Yes.
That's the goal. The goal is not for us to like, oh, I'm learning to trust in God. No. I want him to trust me.
Yes.
I want him because you are waiting. We are waiting for blessings and miracles in our finances, in health. There's people out there that you have plenty of money, but you're sick. You're fighting cancer. You're fighting, tumors. You're fighting depression. You're fighting, mental health issues that the enemy has been coming and lying to you, or your children.
Yes.
Your the things that you're believing for are in your marriage, or they're in your with your family, or they're in the area of salvation, or they're in your occupation or your business. Like what we went through is our business started drying up in that time.
Yeah.
All of our
And it
clients,
never happens like that. Never. This was so surprising. It took us off guard.
Yes.
It caught us off guard. So we didn't expect that.
I mean, we were like in a place where, man, I'll be honest with you, we were in a place where like every day we were having to believe God to work so that things could get taken care of, things that could get paid, things could, I mean, it was like, I hadn't been there. We haven't been there ever. I haven't been there in years, but yet I knew there was a peace that God was working.
Yes, and I believe that there was a peace that he gave us because honestly, when we probably should have been really like more frazzled, there was like a supernatural peace that he just gave us.
That he was at work.
That he was at work, and there was a joy and a laughter. But I feel like even in then, it was him showing us like, I'm still faithful. It was those little whispers of like, I'm still faithful. Today we were able to do this. I'm still faithful.
Yeah.
I'm still faithful.
Don't let nothing get in the way of your tithes. Don't let nothing
Even
get in the
when
way of being a giver.
You could say, I need to hold on to this. I'm like, no, Lord, this belongs to you.
Yeah.
And that goes first. But I think there's so many principles he's teaching us.
Yes.
And it makes me broken because he's so faithful.
Yeah.
He's such a faithful God. And
Yeah.
man, I think of like, Lord, I'm so undeserving at times. And you're so patient with us in our growing, in our maturity. And guys, don't give up. He's faithful, and he's gonna show up. I promise you.
Yeah.
If he did it for us, if he did it for Pastor Vince and Sister Ginger, he's gonna do it.
And he's done it for so many. I mean, that's why our ministry is so great. Our founders, our founders, they've modeled for, man, so many years, since 1967, they have been modeling trusting God. Yeah. And God built a global ministry. And Pastor Sonny would always say that things don't always come easy for Victory Outreach. But, we wouldn't have it any other way. You know why? Because we know he has learned and he has taught us how to trust in the Lord, and that when it's God's ministry and when it's God's purpose and when it's God's plan, he will always come through for his children.
And I love what Pastor Joe says. He says, if it's God's will, it's God's bill.
Yes, absolutely.
And ever since he said that, me and my husband, we quote that so many times, right? It's like it's a favorite quote in our house that we say because it's true.
Yeah. See, and you may think like, well, some of you may be saying, well, man, what they're sharing is kind of elementary. I know this, or I've learned this. Well, let me tell you this. There's levels of faith.
Yeah.
And you know what? You may have learned this, but let me tell you, when you start stepping into new levels, you may have to go through it all over again for a whole nother level. You may say, oh, well, I learned. Listen, there are phases of faith and there are facets of faith. Faith is not a general thing that you could just say, oh, well, I have faith. No, Elijah taught us that he had faith in God for provision. He went to the woman of Zarephath, she fed him a meal, and God provided for her. He went and the ravens fed him, and they took care of him, and he had great faith for God as a provider. But when it came time for Jezebel to threaten his life, he went running for the hills because he didn't have faith in God as his protector. And what God is doing is he is building, and we'll get into this more, he's building a complete faith. He's doing a work that is going to cause our faith to be complete. And what's happening is that many of us are in places, and God is allowing us to discover the areas where our faith has been incomplete. You may be good faith and strong faith in certain areas, but in other areas, your faith has been weak.
Yeah.
And those are the areas that the Lord is coming for. Why? Because he's coming soon. Why? Because times are getting more terrible. Why? Because people will fall away from the faith. Yeah. They will leave the Lord. Why? Because faith is incomplete. So God is saying, things are going to get harder. Things are going to get worse. Just like you're seeing right now in Target, they hired, we know about this. Everybody knows about it. Yeah. They hired a transgender Satan worshiper to design their clothes for kids. And now, just like Anheuser-Busch, they're going through all kinds of backlash, and their business is suffering, and now they're scrambling, and they're trying to put their all of these new designs in the back of the store and all these different things. But you know what it is the world is testing the waters of evil, and we're seeing it rise right before us. But what we are going to need to survive it all is going to be a mature, complete faith.
Yes.
So guys, listen, I don't want to give you any more because there's so much more that we have to give you. We haven't even gotten into the good stuff yet, but these are the things that we wanted to just connect with you on. We love you. Yes. And listen, don't forget, now pray for us this weekend. We're going to be in Sacramento, ministering up there, taking the podcast on the road, filming up there with Pastor Eddie and Sister Thalia. If you get a chance today and you want to visit our website, go to mondoandcristina.com and visit us. You can connect with all aspects of our business and our ministry there, and you'll see it all. And also get ready. Share, subscribe, soak all this in, and get ready for the things that God's going to teach you and I together, all of us together, in these upcoming weeks. Right, babe?
Yes, right.
So, we love you guys, and we will see you guys soon. Pray for us. We'll be praying for you. God bless you, and we'll talk to you later. Bye now.
Bye, guys.
Don't worry about a thing. Every little thing is gonna be alright. I woke up this morning on my horizon. 3 little birds were on my doorstep, singing sweet songs, melody pure and true. And they said, this message is you. They said, don't worry.